Hey everybody, it's Aunt Bibi. Today is Tuesday, November 30th, 2021. I'm Barb Hammer. So Aunt Bibi's been kind of missing in action lately. Uh, that's partly technical issues I've had. I tried to make a video about Cuba earlier this month or late last month. I forget now. I think it was earlier. Yeah, I don't know. So I the last video I posted was this chat with Scott. So we got to talk about Cuba, what I wanted to say in my video, and I have more to talk about as far as Cuba. But locally, I'm dealing with a lot of COVID restrictions. So we have the vaccine card. Um, and now recently there's been a lot of flooding. So the vaccine card shrank our world, and then the flooding shrank it even more. So more restrictions. Sorry, I got to adjust my camera here a little bit. More restrictions. So, and it's a depressing time of year because it's very dark and rainy and gloomy, cloudy. Days are short. Anyway, so it gets me down. I'm gonna admit that, all this stuff, it gets me down. And then all the censorship. So I've debated what to put on YouTube, what to put on BitChute. And anyway, I decided this is gonna be a YouTube video. My Cuba video, I was gonna post on BitChute. It was gonna be my first video for BitChute, but that didn't work out. My software acted up, as I always have software issues every year, it seems. So anyway, I guess this is going to be somewhat of a rant. So I've been watching a lot. I hate watching YouTube now because there's just so much disinformation. It's become increasingly mainstream. Um, so I've been kind of escaping and binge watching like Scott's game videos, and I watch his BitChute videos every day. Or he's very good at. Oops, that's not what I wanted. So yeah, this is his channel. Yeah, this is what I want to show. Sorry. So I watch he's pretty good at putting out a video practically every day, and sometimes two a day. He often takes Sundays off, but anyway, Scott gets into the nitty gritty of COVID, the virus, the all the developments about vaccines, whatever. So, and he was booted off of YouTube in August, and I was getting a lot of strikes, and my channel was in danger of being taken down too. Um, so that's his second channel, Church Dog 42, was taken out in August. His first one, American Everyman channel, was his original YouTube channel. It was taken out in 2018 in the big purge. There was a big purge in February of 2018. Anyway, so I guess my rant. I have a lot of frustrations about the resistance in the COVID skeptic community. Um, And I guess my theme is resistance is futile, but I will put a question mark there. So it seems that there are lots of false prophets, I will call them, in the COVID skeptic community. And I think I can get away. I think on YouTube it's okay now. As this video that you see here from a channel I think it's relatively new. It's got over 2,000 subscribers, but I don't think this channel's been around very long. Um, and it says resistance is imperative. It's a panel discussion on dismantling the new normal nightmare. So they were joking about, oh, and it might have been a live, yeah, it was a live stream. So they were joking about whether it was going to be taken down or whatever. So some of these figures have been censored, their channels taken off of YouTube over COVID. But I think it's okay to you can talk in general terms about COVID. Um, But if you get into the details of the virus, where it came from, and about the details about the vaccines, then it's considered medical misinformation if you question anything, the official narratives. So one of the few videos that I've watched recently on YouTube was this one, and it was mentioned to me by young Daniel Ananda Pradip in Indonesia, and he mentioned this and he reminded me about it. So I watched the video after the live stream. So this panel discussion is an interesting group. Basically, these are all Max Blumenthal and part of Max Blumenthal's network. So what's happened is like the fake left. Max Blumenthal is still fake left, even though he's flipped on Syria and regime change and tried to rebrand. So he has been moving his network, let's say, further to the right or to the center, to the right, yeah. And so in the COVID skeptic community, my frustration is it's dominated by anarchists and libertarians. And Max Blumenthal doesn't exactly fit that label, but he is fake left, sort of corporate centrist. He will talk out of both sides of his mouth, so he panders to the right. Yeah, he definitely panders to the right, and my frustration is that there are all these old Cold War themes that are creeping into the narrative, the code resistance community, and so it's all about the government, the government, the government, and they kind of dance around. They don't really get to the heart of the problem. Is that Klaus Schwab and his new world, there we go, new world order, World Economic Forum, Great Reset is business just taking over governments on a global scale, mainly in westernized countries, and infiltrating targeted countries like China, infiltrating them to a certain extent. And Cuba, that was what I was going to talk about, Cuba, this infiltration and co-opting. So the problem with anarchists and libertarians is they like to use the term totalitarian. And that's an old Cold War smear. And, people in the West are really brainwashed. I mean, I remember in school and in my college courses, university, whatever. You'd hear this term totalitarian, and you really heard it a lot. I grew up during the Cold War, so I heard that a lot. Totalitarian. And it was just smearing, just equating fascism and communism, that they were both totalitarian. So we don't want those extremes. And this is the term that's getting really overused, I'm sorry, in the COVID skeptic community, and it just irritates me. And they will use it to blame China all the time. China is the model for the new world order, and no, China is not the model for the new world order. And then blame China for the virus, blame China for everything. And it's just distraction. And who does that serve? Business interests. Yes, that's right. So there was this panel discussion, and they misused this term totalitarian. So it was mainly this Dr. Piers Robinson, and he's a political scientist, and he should know better. And he didn't seem to. And this, Nick Hudson, from Panda. He's from, I don't know, he's from South Africa. He's in South Africa, and he has some organization called Panda where they go into the data analysis or something, analytics or something of the pandemic or something. And then you have definite libertarians like anarchists or libertarians. Ryan Christian from Last American Vagabond here, and Whitney Webb, who was fairly quiet during this panel discussion. She wasn't feeling well, and I felt sorry for her because she's expecting a baby, and she said in the middle of it that she should probably be on maternity leave, and she stuck it out. She had to leave before the end of the panel discussion. Anyway, so I'm going to get into, who really pushes this totalitarian smear is CJ Hopkins. And Scott did a very good video about CJ's freak out. And he's very gracious to CJ, but I've seen I've been following CJ since last year, and I liked his stuff at first. He wrote a piece called "The War on Populism," very good. But then I started to see certain themes that he was pushing. He was just blaming government. He wasn't, um, he's not a political analyst. He is a novelist, a playwright, and a political satirist, which I think is funny, ironic. But he's basically an artist. He's in the arts, and I call these people fartiste. And he's definitely anarchist. And people will say he's a leftist. No, he's not a leftist. He's not a leftist. So he's definitely anarchist. And my old band account on Twitter, he followed me until I criticized anarchism, and it's like a cult. So they think that, if just government would get out of the way, everything would be fine. But what's really silly is anarchists, and libertarian, well, anarchists especially, and the labels are just ridiculous. So you'll have people on the left saying they're libertarian. They'll say, I'm a socialist libertarian or libertarian socialist. And there are anarchists who are on the right, and there are all these other labels like volunteerist or agorist, things like that. But it's all basically libertarian anarchists, same thing. Corporate centrist really is what it is. So they're rebranded corporate neoliberals. So CJ Hopkins will use this totalitarianism theme all the time in his writing, and there are many other. Yeah, this is very dominant. Um, but the thing is that's that totalitarian label. I was saying incorrectly that Hannah Arendt, an anarchist in post World War II, during the Cold War, early days of the Cold War, that she coined the term totalitarian or totalitarianism. She didn't, but she, I guess, weaponized it for the Cold War, let's say. So she took that term, and it's kind of like she is sort of um, the Ayn Rand of the left for the anarchists. So Ayn Rand is an icon for libertarians. Hannah Arendt is kind of like an icon for anarchists, I guess. So Hannah Arendt, she moved to the U.S. and I guess she wanted to please, it was she was an opportunist, so she took advantage of the atmosphere and how the West wanted to have a Cold War, to keep tensions going on after the Nazis were defeated. So anyway, the thing I forgot about, I found this old post of mine from September, and CJ Hopkins had been in a video on Rockfin, is behind a paywall. I think it is posted somewhere else. I haven't watched it, with Max Blumenthal. And who was here but Max Blumenthal? Yeah, so Max Blumenthal, he's an opportunist. He's come kind of late to the rodeo, as I like to say, in the COVID skeptic community, and he's been um, moving his gang, like mainly Jimmy Dore, to kind of question the COVID narrative somewhat, but still in a safe way, not to be purged from YouTube or anything. So anyway, yeah, so I'd forgotten about this. And I called it the Cass Sunstein Agent Summit. And yeah, the interesting thing is that they've both been featured on Fox News, or Max Blumenthal's beard, as I call her, his wife, Anya Parampo. She's been on Fox News a number of times. Jimmy Dore's on Tucker Carlson's show. Yeah, it's Tucker Carlson who is featuring all of these COVID skeptics. But Tucker Carlson will always blame China. He has a lot of people trashing China. Oh, yeah, Glenn Greenwald is another one. So Fox News featured both fake resistance to Schwab, World Economic Forum's Great Reset, COVID business takeover. Anarchist CJ Hopkins of Consent Factory, fartiste, promotes Cold War totalitarian false comparison of communism to fascism, and Clintonite chameleon Blumenthal. Um, the interesting thing, so the China distraction, so blaming China, shifting, saying China's the model for this, we got to blame China for the virus and everything, the whole psyop. That seems to be where they're constantly shifted. They want everybody's attention to go there in the COVID skeptic community. And, communism. Oh, communism. It's communism. This New World Order is communism. And as they've fallen gong infiltrators in the COVID skeptic community. So you have these anonymous accounts on Twitter, and there is one definitely Falun Gong, and others that kind of echo. Yeah, so many of these anonymous Falun accounts in the COVID skeptic community, and they gain huge followings very quickly. I don't know. But they seem to be pushing things, agendas on the right, communism, this is communism taking over. And there are politicians that push this communism, especially in Canada. You see Maxime Bernier and this, Randy Hillier, those two, they push this. And in Australia, they tend to push this as communism, the Chinese taking over. And what's interesting about the China theme and these anarchists and libertarians in the COVID skeptic community is that these are the same themes that you see from Julian Assange, so CIAssange, as I call him, and Edward Snowden, and people, figures connected to them. And it seems like the alternative community is both dominated by anarchists and libertarians, but it's also dominated by people in this Julian Assange cult. And, Edward Snowden is part of that. And they're connected. And, there's a China figure connected to all of those. And that's Ai Weiwei, the artist, but he's really a propagandist. So I think it was George Orwell who said, all art is propaganda. And he's kind of right there, but definitely in the case of Ai Weiwei. So I was watching yesterday a couple of interviews with Ai Weiwei recently, because he has a book out. Like, he always has something coming out, either documentary or a book. So much for he's being an artist. So the themes that he spreads, Ai Weiwei. So he, I think I'll have to do a video devoted to Ai Weiwei. He's a very interesting character. But the themes that he pushes are anarchists and libertarians. So he'll talk about the government as a problem. And he will mainly criticize China, but also criticize the US. And he's gotten some attention because he's saying that in the West we are living under an authoritarian regime. So he's comparing the US to China, like they're the same or something. And he just blatantly lies about China all the time. I mean, I've told people the biggest lies are about China and Chinese, and that is the truth. And you can really cut through a lot of the bullshit, a lot of the propaganda, if you really understand China and the issues there. And no country is monolithic, so there are competing interests in every country. And in China, it's the same way. But right now, government regulation prevails, over business interests. So the government is in charge. In the West, in westernized countries, it's business that's in charge. And that's a difference. And that's why they demonize China. So, yeah, there's all this constant trying to, in the political atmosphere that we have now, there's this constant undermining and co-opting of the left. And that was what I wanted to get into in my video about China. And Scott and I kind of discussed that some in our chat together. But I'm going to talk about Latin America. Very interesting what's going on there. And there are been a lot of elections. And the problem in Latin America is you have the left, but there's a very strong movement of fake left in Latin America. And it's very frustrating for people who are on the real left in countries, especially like Nicaragua. Nicaragua is an interesting um, situation. So, the Ortega government did not do do lockdowns, didn't close borders, didn't shut down the economy over COVID, um, and they don't have vaccine man or mask mandates. China doesn't have vaccine mandates. There is some uh, perhaps excessive contact tracing, um, but the situation in China is not the same as the West, and Nicaragua doesn't get enough credit. It deserves a lot more credit. The Ortega government deserves a lot more credit than it's getting, and it's getting smeared a lot in the media, either ignored or smeared. So anyway, so I guess that's my rant. So my complaint is that the COVID skeptic community is not real resistance, the way it is dominated by anarchists and libertarians, because their solution is actually what has created the problem that we have um, right now with the oh yeah, so I forgot. So this one figure, Dr. Piers Robinson, he yeah, I just found this, that he actually posted this video where CJ Hopkins appeared on Fox News. I can't remember if it was with Tucker Carlson or not. I'm not sure, but he was featured on Fox News. Might have been on Tucker Carlson. So CJ Hopkins complains about, oh yeah, he was complaining about being censored, and now he's complaining that his site is considered a suspicious link. Now it's not. Yeah, I mean, his site, Consent Factory. Um, I learned CJ Hopkins is a computer idiot, and he was just going off about, oh, I'm being censored and my site is blocked. It wasn't being blocked; it was his software. So he's upset now because um, on Twitter, his site is being called suspicious. Anyway, so I don't know. I'm just frustrated with this resistance. I'm just frustrated with the resistance right now in the COVID skeptic community and the anarchists and the libertarians and the false prophets. Now, individuals, I've talked to people here locally. I can talk to people locally and who are not happy with what's going on. And we might not have the same political views, but, we're I stand with them. I stand with other ordinary people. I just don't like these false prophets. And people tend to think they need leaders or heroes. No, they need to stand together and and focus on this issue of vaccine mandates, um, vaccine passports. Oppose this whole agenda. Need to stand together, and that's my message. I just don't like these false prophets and these heroes, these fake heroes that people fixate on. So this panel, there are figures in here I'm going to talk about in another video, but I just wanted to make a general video about the resistance movement, the COVID resistance movement. Anyway, I guess that's all for now. So anyway, thanks for your patience, and I will talk to you again soon.